What's up, YouTube? It's Heretic here, and I am back with another deck overview and player interview from week 2 of the Spring Regional Championships. And today we will be interviewing Zander Bennett, who got Day 2 top 32 finish with his Rainbow Road deck. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. This is also the first time the Rainbow Road deck has appeared here on World Renowned Heretic. So quick overview of the list here. This mainly focuses on Xerneas EX's first attack, which is Rainbow Force for a fairy and 2 colorless, which deals 10 damage plus 30 more damage for each different type of Pokemon on your bench. So we have a lot of different types of Pokemon to kind of go with here. So we've got Eviltal and Eviltal EX fulfilling Dark, Shaman fulfills colorless, and we got Jirachi, Hoopa, Keldeo, just a lot of utility stuff. Now we have Ho-Oh EX, which is a big energy accelerator with Rebirth, which lets you flip a coin once per turn for each Ho-Oh in your discard, and if you get heads, you can place it on your bench along with up to 3 different types of basic energy in the deck, which we have exactly 3 different types. Now we also have some alternative attackers, of course the Eviltals as I mentioned, and then Zander also opted to add in a Jolteon EX, which I think is a pretty darn smart choice. Really, really good card, especially against Night March, which could be problematic otherwise if they start hitting Lysanders on Ho-Oh. So overall seems really good. Trainers, it's just a lot of 4 of. It's a Ho-Oh EX deck, so we expect 4 energy switches. We got Computer Search, we got a bunch of 4s with Battle Compressor, Trainer's Mail, Ultra Ball, VS Seeker, a couple Float Stones, a couple Fighting Fury Belts, 4 Sky Fields, so we can just make Xerneas do more damage. And then we've got a Colress, a Lysander, an N, and 3 Professor Sycamores. We got 4 double colorless, only 3 fairy energy because again Ho-Oh can just kind of bring him back. And then we also have the 1 lightning and the 1 darkness energy, which can be energy switched over to Eviltal and Eviltal EX, or the lightning energy onto Jolteon. We also have an Execute, which can just be propagated and used as another type of Pokemon on the bench. So of course with colorless, dark, fairy, fire, grass, lightning, metal, psychic, water, I mean you've got more than enough. You could prize 1 or 2 things and still have more than enough types to do enough damage to OHKO anything in the game. So it's a pretty darn cool deck. Definitely something that I mean I think the first time I ever saw it was like back at Cities, in Expanded Cities, and then it's just kind of like one of those things. It's just so cool. Like I absolutely love it. And so Zander's going to join us here, and we're going to go over his deck list here and his performance at Georgia Regional. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, so we're joined here by Zander Bennett, and so what's going on? You made Day 2 at Georgia Regionals, which was pretty cool. When I was there, I didn't do nearly as well. So you made it with the Rainbow Road deck, which I guess is named after a level in Mario Kart.
Yeah.
So
some other people were saying that they called it Skittles, which is another really funny thing that I heard. But I just called it Rainbow Road just because that's what everyone else was
that's
calling
what I always hear, yeah. So what made you choose that deck?
Okay, so in all reality, I had no clue whether or not I was even going to play in the tournament. If you would have asked me a week before, I would have had no idea. I didn't know whether or not I wanted to play seriously and try to get enough points to go to the top 100 for the NAT stipends. And the reason why Georgia Regionals was kind of my big commitment is because there aren't very many LCs in my area. And since I can't drive, I can't get to any really far LCs to go to them. And so I basically had to top 8 the tournament in order to get a significant amount of points so that it would bump me up to get the top 100 stipends. And so I could have played seriously and went for that. And then I could have played for fun and just kind of picked something that I knew that I would have a good time playing and not really care how I did, because worst case scenario, I would just drop and play fake format. Or I could have just not played at all and just played fake format all day. So I was kind of really just deciding between those 3. And I saw that Rainbow Road did well, and I was like, screw it. Why not just do that? And so it's like 2 a.m. the night before the tournament, and I saw the list that was actually on Team Fish Knuckles that the guy did well with, and I was like, yo, this deck would be broken if it had Fright Knight and Jolteon. And so I cut Maxi Gallade and the water, and I added in Fright Knight, Jolteon, and Lightning, and that's the list that I played, and it was a super sweet list. And those 3 cards definitely helped out throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, and it's like, even without Dark Patch, because you had a full set of E-switches, and then Ho-Oh EX, you know, like, Fright Knight's just such a ridiculous card in expanded format, especially.
Originally, it was just in there for Groudon, just because I needed a way to kind of pop the Sash before they set themselves up active. But it actually came in really clutch versus like Mega Ray and Toad. You could start it versus Mega Ray, and the only way that they would be able to evolve without ending their turn is by either Hex Maniacing you, which is kind of reasonable for them considering it's Mega Ray and they just draw a butt ton of cards, but it forces them to do it. And Toad, it actually came in a really helpful versus Toad because they would lose Fighting Fury Belt, which isn't super relevant, but turning off like Floatstone on Keldeo for Totina was really relevant.
Yeah.
And just having a way to deal with different attackers was really nice. Like I was able to Sky Return a Joltik with a Life Dew and then send up Fright Knight and take the prize.
Oh,
so
wow. Yeah.
that was something that came up. It was really cool.
Yeah, I remember I've seen something kind of similar to that when they had a Joltik with a Fighting Fury Belt and you'd Sky Return it and bring up the Fright Knight and claim the prize. Well, it's funny because when I was talking to Trainer Wolf, who won the regional up in Madison, he was talking about Fright Knight and how that was like his MVP, and I was thinking like in just every deck that it's used in, I feel like that card is so powerful.
It's insane. It's just that you always have the option to just go 60-60. Like I was against last round of the tournament, I went against Jimmy McClure playing Totina, and he thought the matchup was really bad, and I was like, all right, cool. And in game one, he just wrecks me, and he offered the ID before, and I didn't take it because he thought the matchup was bad. And then game one, he wrecks me. And so I'm like, man, I don't want to lose to this. And so I offer the ID back, and he doesn't take it. And then game two, I set up a situation with Fright Knight where I Lysandered his Keldeo, did 60 onto a Shaman, and then his Giratina was on the bench that I could have also dealt with had I had a Lysander, and he couldn't get rid of all of the things that I could have taken 2 prizes on in the one turn, and so I won that game. And then we unintentionally tied. So we both offered the ID, and then on game 3 we unintentionally.
The unintentional draw. Yep.
Yeah, I think if we would have kept playing it, I probably would have had it because on his turn on my turn that became turn 0, he had just Chaos Wield instead of Quaking Punching, and I went draw for turn. Double energy switch onto a Xerneas, attach Fairy, and then had a supporter. And I probably would have won that game eventually, but since time was called and he wasn't going to concede, obviously, because we both were going to be into day 2 at 19, we just tied.
Now, like, I was looking at your list, and I noticed there was only a total of 5 basic energies, I think. What was it? And 3 of them are fairy types, which, it makes sense for, like, the Xerneas and all that. But it's just, I guess it's just kind of, when I look at it, like Ho-Oh kind of bringing itself back, like, in order to get the full 3 energies, you got to have your one of both darkness and lightning already in the discard pile. So if you prize something or if it's already in play, then you just not bring the Ho-Oh back at all, or...
Thing is that you don't necessarily need any energy, or you don't need all 3 energies, because as long as you're hitting 1 energy off of a Xerneas, preferably a fairy, you're already profiting, because at that point you can go energy switch DCE knockout. Getting more energy is cool, and there were times that I was able to energy switch the extra energy onto another Xerneas, so that later on in the game I could just attach a fairy and then eventually attack with it. Or after, it would be multiple energies onto a Xerneas because I got the value off of it. And I can only think of twice in the tournament where I prized an energy and it was relevant. One of the rounds, I totally could have went turn 1 Jolteon versus Turbo Dark, and he would have just had no response. But I prized the Lightning, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'll just attack with Xerneas instead. And then I flipped Triple Tails on Rebirth.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was awesome. I was really excited for that. And so I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then day 2, it was my final game versus Zach Patterson. Game 3, I started Fright Knight, and I prized Keldeo, Egg, and Dark.
Aww.
So the only way that I could retreat Fright Knight was by attaching a DCE to it. And he had started the Pumpkaboo and attached a Life Dew to it. So the only way that he could have retreated was by hexing or done something, and so he just ended up attacking me with it. So I just sat there draw passing until he killed the Fright Knight, because I didn't want to waste a DCE to retreat it, because the only way that you can win that matchup is by running them out of DCEs. And I beat one day 1, and it was because I was able to get rid of the energies both times. So I just couldn't waste the energy to retreat it.
Yeah.
But the energy count is fine. As long as you're able to get the fairy, it doesn't matter, because they will eventually play a stadium, and you just discard your Ho-Oh, and then you get multiple flips on it. I know that a few times against Mega Ray, since they never bump your stadium, I sacrificed a Ho-Oh, and I would use Sky Return, go into Ho-Oh, and they would kill it with Emerald Break, and then I would have multiple flips to get it back. And I would also have a bench space open from the Sky Return. And since you only run so many types, you have to have 7 types on your bench to one-shot a Mega Ray.
Yeah.
And using, which is doable. I've done it. I did it multiple times over the weekend. But by using Sky Return, you needed 1 less type because you're doing the 30. And then you also get to draw off of it when you bench it again, and you get to reuse the Ho-Oh, which is a big deal.
Okay, yeah, well, and I mean, the list has plenty of Ho-Ohs, so, I mean, worst case scenario, like, you don't want to have to put 2 of them on the bench at one time. But
I think I only started it once the entire event.
Okay. Yeah, and that's just, I feel like that's just, you know, a lot. I noticed the items, it's a lot of consistency, a lot of 4-ofs, you know, Ultra Ball, E-Switch, like...
You don't need many gimmicks with the deck because Ho-Oh is already the biggest gimmick you can play in Expanded.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
So it's really fun. The list is pretty much the same as I would run it if I ever ran it again.
Okay, so you wouldn't change anything?
I would debate adding an AZ. There were so many times that I would wish that I had an AZ just so I could go like pick up a Ho-Oh, Ultra Ball the Ho-Oh, and then Rebirth flip it. Okay. Just have more value off of Ho-Oh. But there are also some times that they would just Lysander the Keldeo because it was just the thing that was letting me get so many switching shenanigans between Xerneas and Fright Knight, which when you get to use both of those in combination, it's just dumb. So they would just kill the Keldeo, and then the only way that you would have to have a good switching method would have been AZ. But Jolteon having free retreat is super awesome. Because there were multiple times that I would just draw into Jolteon. It's just like, sweet, I just start Jolteon, and I have a free retreater the entire game.
Yeah. And you don't even ever necessarily attack with it. You just kind of bring it up every time someone gets KO'd, and then you just bring it right back. Yeah.
Like, there were matchups that I would bench Jolteon, I would never power it up, but it would just always be a free retreater, and it was really good.
No, that's just super good, and I think that's something that's really underrated, too, because, like, people look at that, and they're like, oh, well, you know, it's a really good attacker, but it doesn't do a lot of damage and all this, and it's like, but it has 0 retreat cost, like you said.
Jolteon probably had a larger spot in the deck having free retreat than actually using Flash Ray. I think I used free retreat on Jolteon, like, probably 15 more times than I ever said the word Flash Ray.
Now, I also noticed you run a Yveltal EX as well as the Fright Knight, which I think is kind of interesting. It's like kind of gives you a pick and choose for your option, or if one gets knocked out, you know, you get the Dark Energy back on Ho-Oh.
The weird thing about the Yveltal is that you can only do extra damage for each different type, so by running the Fright Knight, it meant that the Yveltal EX was kind of less useful, because it put me in a really weird spot of what Dark type I wanted to have in play. And the one time that I kind of went to power up Yveltal, I like flipped all tails on Rebirth and I couldn't even get it out. Yeah, you don't remember the times that you flip heads just because you get it out and you don't care.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh, okay, cool, I can Evil Ball something. If I would cut something, it would probably be the Yveltal EX, and I would add in the AZ. Or a male. Yveltal didn't do much over the weekend, but Fright Knight did work. Fright Knight was so good.
Yeah, because, like, I was looking at the list, and I was thinking, like, well, you could do a Mewtwo EX, but then you run Hoopa already, so that just kind of already has a spot. Like, you could run Lugia, but you got Shaman.
Yeah, you have basically every type except fighting. And by running the Maxi Gallade, you would have had fighting.
Yeah.
I felt that the Jolteon was more important, though, because I'd rather beat Night March than beat Jolteon, and that was the correct assumption.
Yeah, and I could definitely
Night March ran Gallade, but what you could do is you could... They would bring out Gallade knowing that you played Jolteon game 1, and then you just go Lysander kill it, and they can't maxi it out in the turn that you killed it, and then the next turn you go Flash Ray, and you take a knockout, and they basically have to use 2 DCEs onto the Gallade in the process of you killing it, and then Lysandering it, whenever, or then killing it again after they killed your Jolteon.
Yeah.
So they kind of run out of stuff.
And then you're just doing, you know, I don't know how much damage with Rainbow Spear or whatever. It's not Rainbow Spear, it's whatever it is.
I think it's Rainbow Spear. I don't know.
It's Rainbow something. It's whatever. It's something
Rainbow Force. Rainbow Force.
Okay, I was going to say, it's something that has to do with a lot of different colors and, yeah.
It's Rainbow Force for Fairy DCE, 10 plus 30 for each.
Yeah, 10 plus 30, yep.
Which made for really annoying math, because at the beginning of the tournament, I had never played any games with the deck. Round 1 of the deck was my first deck, and I was sitting there like, all right, 10, 40, 70, 100, and I just got stuck. I was like, how did I do this math? And so I just counted it up like I did Emerald Break, and then I would add 10.
And add 10.
And so it's like, all right, how many types do I have? All right, I have 7, 2, 10, plus 10. That's a dead Mega Ray, okay?
Yeah, it's like, hey, I killed your Rayquaza.
Uh,
No, that's just really interesting. Now I guess because you just chose this at the last second more for fun, it sounds like, than
yeah, kind
anything
of.
else.
I mean, I'm shocked I did well.
I mean,
So
so I guess you didn't really have like any specific types of decks that you were expecting to see then, or like, I mean,
I knew I would see Turbo Dark and Mega Ray. I think
oh yeah,
that Turbo Dark is better than Evital Archeops right now, just because flooding the board with energy has always been good. And you run 4 more ways to flood the board with energy than Evital Archeops does. And frankly, if you wanted to, you could run Maxi Galite or Maxi Archeops in that deck anyway, just that you blow through your deck so fast that you don't even need to run the Maxi and stuff. And then Mega Ray just kind of beat everything that I expected for this week. And that's what I was considering playing had I not
yeah,
played
I mean,
Road. Just because you beat Evital. I didn't expect a ton of Night March. And there was definitely some, but there wasn't enough to merit just not playing Mega Ray. And if I did play it, I had a Getsus in the list anyway, and I'd beat it with Getsus anyway.
yeah,
Just because a lot of people think that Getsus is kind of a card that you just hit them with on turn 1 and then you never see it again.
no,
But a lot
that's
of
not
people,
true.
yeah, a lot of people would lose to a Getsus mid game just because they wouldn't prepare every turn with their VS Seekers to get supporters. And I know that one time I got screwed over by a delinquent.
Oh,
Kevin Krupnik, I think I'm saying his last name right. He made top 8 of that tournament with, I'm going to call it Turbo Dark, but it ran Evitals, and he had AZ, he had like, I mean, not AZ's not a crazy supporter, but he had Getsus and Delinquent in there. And eventually he like end me to low, and I just kind of drew past, and he was like, draw Delinquent. And I was like, oh god. Luckily, I top decked like Trainer's Mail or something, but it was still just stupid. I was like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I just got delinquented.
yeah, that card, I was toying around with Delinquent a little bit in my playtesting of some of my decks, and I was like, this card is so situational, but when it goes off, it wins games more
We
often than
tested
not.
or I considered it a lot in Mega Ray, not because it was any good at disrupting the opponent, but just as a way to get rid of Silent Lab. Because the thing that I was really worried about this week is that the Evital decks had been teching for Mega Ray, running Silent Labs and Parallel Cities, and more of them are cutting the Parallel Cities, but they're still keeping the Silent Labs. And I didn't want to just go against an Evital and they would just go, Silent Lab, you go, and then your hand just be dead. And so Delinquent was one of the ways to get rid of the stadium, but in the list that I had, it was Skyla instead. Just because Skyla would, in the process of getting rid of the stadium, it would also get you your Skyfield, which is just extremely important. And with running 4 and Trainer's Mails, you kind of had some more outs to it anyway. But the Skyla was just a nice guarantee, like, hey, I can get this out no matter what.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Okay, so what? I mean, obviously you went up against you said you went up against like a Night March and some stuff.
I have my matchups.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. It's right here. Okay, round 1 I went against Turbo Dark. I won game 1, and then we went to time on game 2. Had he flipped 2 heads on Maximar, we would have tied.
Oh man.
He had 3 energy on it, and he was running it because you could attach to Maximar and then use Dark Head on the. But he flipped 2 tails and 1 heads, and I was like,
I remember you talking about that after the 3rd round or whatever, and I overheard that, and I was like, Maximar, dang, what the heck?
Round 2, I went against Dudzik playing Groudon. Game 3. I would have won on time if I end and I needed an energy and I didn't hit an energy, and I would have won on time because I would have benched him, but I whiffed the energy and so we tied. Then I went against Mega Ray, 2-0'd it. I beat a Greninja next round. I thought I would just get swamped by Greninja because I had no Hex in the list. Yeah. There was just no way that I would beat it, but they just couldn't deal with the Rainbow Forest with Fury Belt really well. Okay. And you would just take 2 prizes before they would ever start getting set up, and then you would just run down their storm of Greninjas. So
you just have another Xerneas ready, yeah.
Yeah, I beat that. It was really funny. Both games, his hand was dead, and I took a knockout, and he was like, teammates. And I was like, oh my goodness, are you serious?
Oh,
You're just sitting on it. And then I end him, and he's like, all right, yep, your end got me.
Oh, yikes.
The next round I went against Andrew Gibson playing Night March Archeops. And that was the Night March that I beat day 1. Okay. Won game 1, and then game 2 we went to time and I won it. Then I went against Kevin, who made top 8, and we tied. Then I went against Brandon Salazar. We tied, playing Turbo Dark. Went against Tristan Lackey. Game 1 against him, I literally handed him the win. I had game, and I thought that I needed more stuff, and so I benched a Shaman as my 8th bench Pokemon, in which I didn't need to do, and I literally could have just propagated Egg and benched it and knocked him out for game. But luckily, I won the other 2 games in the set, so I was 503, and then I went against McClure playing Totina and finished day 1 504 at 19. So that was a pretty good day 1. I didn't think that I would tie 4 rounds, but
well, at 504, you technically went undefeated.
Yeah. Okay, so I go into day 2 at 904 at 504. I think if I would have definitely beat Jacob. Kevin's was super close. His deck is so sweet. The one that he made top 8 with, that deck was killed. Brandon's, we just started, we had like 6 prizes each when we got to game 3 because we were really methodical. And then McClure, I think, would have won. But I mean, you can't call that stuff, especially versus Totina, just because they can go like Crushing Hammer, Quake, and then you just lose. So I go into day 2. I go up against Fred Hoban playing Vespiquen. We always joked because the only deck that I could play was Mega Ray, and the only deck that he could play was Vespiquen. And then I finally switched. So I won game 1, and then I won game 1 by decking him. He'd used all of his Versus Seekers and had 3 DCEs in his discard pile, and I knew that he played 2 Lysander, which I don't remember how. I think we were just talking earlier in the day, and I just knew it. And he had 1 card left in deck, and the only way for him to win was just for him to not be able to attack me for game because he had Lysander. And so I just went Lysander, Shaman, pass. And he's like, you got it. And I was like, yeah.
Nice.
And so I won that game. Then I lost the next one. And then game 3, he went like draw, energy, evolution, go. And I donked him. So that was kind of silly. Round 11, I went against John Orgel playing Toad Bats. And that was really close. It went to game 3, but the Quaking Punches just kind of got me. I hit really bad rebirth flips that game, or that series, but I mean, it just kind of happens. I'm not too salty about it, considering that I had my invite to start with, and I was also just playing for fun. And the fact that I made day 2 was already a joke enough, in my opinion. I was like, what the heck? I just picked this deck up, but it's so fun. It was really close. And then I went against Will Herman playing Trev. It was the only Trev I hit. That matchup is literally 1090. You don't beat it. It's really bad. Especially he ran hammers too, so I just couldn't even power up a Fright Knight because he would just go like Flare Grunt your Dark, and then I couldn't energy switch it back. It was really bad. And then I went against round 13. I went against Mega Ray. Funny story about this matchup. Game 1, he was searching through his deck, battle compressor and discarding Skyfields, and he looks in his deck and he sees a Dimension Valley from where he went against Ryan Sablehouse the round before. And so he had his Dimension Valley in his deck, and they both got prize penalties in their matches because he had the Dimension Valley. Ryan still won his game, and I was going to beat Mega Ray anyway, which I did. But it went to 3 games, though. It was really close. The game that he had the Dimension Valley in his deck, I still lost it.
Oh,
but
man.
it's really fun.
Talk about whiffing on the power play.
Yeah, and then the final round, I'm 2-2 day 2 at this point. 28 points was making it, and last round I'm at 7-2-4. Yeah, 7-2-4. 25. So a win could have possibly gotten me in, and I went against Zach Patterson playing Night March. It went to game 3, and that's the game 3 that I prized the Keldeo egg in the dark. So it was just like, well, all right, you got me here. I didn't check to see if my resistance was one that would have made cut had it been in, because I knew that I wasn't in top 16 at 25, and so I just kind of went up there to see for like all my friends who made top 8. Then I just kind of went to get my stuff because I wanted to go play fake format really bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you only really had the lunch break to do that.
Yeah, I didn't eat lunch. I just sat there and played fake format.
Yeah, I saw you guys doing that. And I was like, wait, he's not playing Rainbow Road. This isn't the tournament.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was really fun. The deck is crazy. It's like you're playing Mega Ray. The trade-off is you're a non-EX attacker, but you have to flip on Rebirth. That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
And it's a really good trade-off whenever you hit any amount of heads, but if day 2 will tell you that I'm not good at flipping heads. What was really annoying is like you get turn 1 Battle Compressor and you discard like all your hobos, and then you Ultra Ball away energy, and you get to the point where you're going to Juniper away an energy switch, and you just go tails, tails, tails on Rebirth, and it's like, oh man, I need to draw cards. Sorry, energy switch.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit frustrating. But I mean, you flip enough heads, you have 3 chances every time.
Yeah.
And since you're attacking with non-EX attackers, you will be ahead in the prize trade the majority of the time. and you run 4 Xerneas so you can sack 1. Like, that's normally what would end up happening. And the really cool thing that I originally missed is that you can have 2 Xerneas in play at once, because attacking with 1, fairy is still a type. So
yeah, and it counts your bench.
It counts its bench. And for some reason, I was just thinking it counts itself. It's like, oh, you can't use fairies because Xerneas is a fairy. But no, you can actually have 2 in play. So that works out well.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so where are we gonna see you guys? Or where are we gonna see you next?
You're gonna see me at Nats. I will not be at Kansas, but Connor is taking fake format. So
yeah, I do remember reading about that. So I need you guys, a few viewers, if you want to see Zander's fake format, or if you want to try that out, looks like Connor Fenton's gonna have it at Kansas City.
Yeah, and if you do end up playing it, just let me know any comments that you have, because I am in the process of going back and nerfing stuff right now.
Okay.
Because there are some things that just kind of need checked. Like Colossal Night Sky is broken, but it's so fun. I love it. But it's just some balancing things. And right now Hex is really good. So I think we're going to make it so the Hex goes to the Lost Zone, just because so many of the decks are ability liant. But that's not what this is about, and you'll read it in the article.
Yeah. All right. So were there any shout-outs you wanted to give?
Shout-outs to BJ Brownell, Caleb, oh my goodness, Caleb Howard, and Zach Patterson for letting me borrow the Jolteon, the Xerneases, and the Ho-Ohs, respectively. Okay. I basically didn't have the entire deck. They let me borrow those cards, which was really convenient. And shout out to all my friends who took the time to play fake format, which is really enjoyable. That was definitely some of the best parts of the weekend.
Nice.
And shout out to finally meeting Kyle Thieker. I hadn't met him yet.
Yeah.
We had talked a ton online, and I hadn't met him, so I met him this weekend. It was really fun.
Yeah. That was real cool. Yeah, I sat like one table away from one of the rounds.
Yeah, day 2 is so much more fun than day 1, just because everyone's really lax, and so we're all like talking in between our matches. And there was one time that Kyle Thieker had said, "I am going to," and the player to my left had said "crap" because they had made a misplay. So I just hear, "I am going to crap." We were all just dying laughing.
That's pretty good. All right. Golden moments there, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Well, Zander, I'd like to tell you congratulations on making day 2.
Yeah, thanks.
It's really awesome to see. That's like, you've done that a lot this year, so definitely looking forward to
I'm shocked
nationals and worlds.
I'm shocked I even do well at this point. It's like, this is my first year actually doing well at tournaments, so every time I make day 2, it's like, wow, I'm awful, and I made day 2. What the heck?
That's what I did a year ago, man. Anyway, I think that's about all we got right now. But definitely, like you said, fake format will be in Kansas City. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you at Nationals, dude.
Yeah, I'll be at Nats and Worlds, and I have no clue what's after that because they haven't released any scheduling.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. So thank you very much for coming along and doing this interview.
Squad up.
Cheers. Do it one more time.
Oh, is this for the video? Hi, video.